Okay. Doris, we are live.
Okay, so I am going to call the meeting to order, and I'm having a really bad day, so what is the first item on our agenda?
So the very first item on the agenda is the hotel text
Yes,
amendment.
okay. I can fill in here. We approved the hotel text amendment, and subsequent to that, our neighboring board reviewed it, and there's a section that they are not comfortable with, and they advise us, because there's a section that says there's a very complex sentence about
I have it. I'll pull it up.
that basically removes community input for the siting of homeless shelters.
Can you see this? Oh, it's kind of hard to. So it says, let me just read it. So it's a section that says a transient hotel operated exclusively for the public purpose of temporary housing assistance by the city or state of New York, or operated by a non-governmental entity pursuant to an active contract or written agreement with an agency of the city or state specifying such public purpose. So the provisions of the section that require the special permit review for hotels in the C districts that we support, had an exception clause in the text that we didn't catch. And that exception clause was exclusively for transient hotels. Now, our neighboring board 11 felt that, like most city facilities, especially schools, the board does have a opportunity for public review. So as much as this text amendment creates an opportunity for public review via the special permit, there was an exception that we didn't catch. So we wanted to make the committee aware of that to see if we wanted to change our recommendation and support and add, as Board 11 did, they were not accept this provision that even a transient hotel should have some type of public review within the special permit. So I don't know how you all feel about that. Anne?
I'd like to make a motion that we make a motion with respect to this text amendment, as you just stated it, with objection to that clause, or whatever the wording would be.
Okay.
I think we kind of got it right. We support the text amendment. We support the changes in the text amendment that allow the use of the special permit, but we do not support the section that removes community input for the siting of transient hotels.
Yes, Doris, and I would take it a step further to say that we support it only if that clause is removed.
Okay.
Okay, do we have a second? Anthony and Barbara? Okay, discussion, okay. Any discussion? So then we need to vote. Let me see. Okay, wait, I have the polling.
We have to do the polling.
Josephine's giving us the checklist.
There we go, for the record.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Okay, I'm going to, everyone's voted. It is unanimous. Okay. Very good. Okay.
That was easy.
That was easy. So now the second item on the agenda is the review of the health and fitness text amendment.
Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln.
Other than that, okay. So Doris, as members of the Zoning and Land Use Committee know, there were 2 working group meetings where we put a whole bunch of slides together, kind of breaking down the health and fitness text amendment, which is difficult. It's a lot more simplified, but still requires concentration. So Doris had wanted me to go through that really quickly, the PowerPoint slides, if that's okay with everyone.
Yes, please, because we is on and she wasn't on the others. And it's still a lot for everyone to absorb.
Okay, so.
Oh, nor was Anthony on those meetings, so.
And yeah, and then we'll pull up the resolution, the draft. So I'm going to share my screen. Let's see if I could do this. Oh, can you see it?
Yep.
I think this is the right one. Okay. I'm just going to make this screen a little bigger if I can. Okay. So this is the health and fitness citywide text amendment, kind of some bullet point slides. The just understanding the health and fitness establishments include a variety of uses, which are currently defined as physical culture establishments. And you'll hear this acronym over and over again, PCEs. PCEs are physical culture establishments, which include a whole variety of different health-related uses, gyms, spas, massage therapy. And at present, the zoning resolution describes where physical culture establishments are allowed to operate within certain commercial and manufacturing districts by special permit. So currently, if you want to open a PCE, you require a special permit for the overwhelming majority of PCE uses. A special permit is prepared by the Board of Standards and Appeals. It requires information about the applicant, the owner, characteristics about the building. So if you wanted to open a PCE, you'd have to first go to the Department of Buildings, get a denial, and then apply to the Board of Standards and Appeals to operate your gym, spa, massage therapy type of business. And I mean, the health and fitness text amendment seeks to change how those uses are cited within commercial manufacturing districts and now residential districts, but we'll get to that. So a little bit of background history on physical culture establishments.
Hey, Joe.
So, yes.
Did you get an answer to the question whether it's only the massage therapy locations that are going to be allowed in the
Yes, I did. It's in here. I did.
We'll get there, Dean.
Okay.
And you'll be more confused after you read the answer.
Okay. Why does
So-
that surprise me?
So just by way of background, 1961 zoning resolution listed PCEs, a definition that included gymnasiums, reducing salons, masseurs, steam baths as use group 9. These activities were permitted as of right in most commercial districts, but were excluded from C1 districts. During the 1970s, concerns were emerging regarding the proliferation of prostitution and illicit sexual activity in New York City, and many of these establishments engaged in such activities were masquerading as health clubs and massage parlors. These establishments were primarily located in Manhattan. And in 1976, to provide time to study and manage the issue, the city moratorium was established for all PCEs. So just understanding some more history, in 1978, the zoning resolution was amended to define and distinguish between adult physical culture establishments and PCEs, just physical culture establishments. Adult PCEs were defined as establishments that offer massage, body rubs, or other similar services by members of the opposite sex. The definition excluded services provided by licensed physicians, chiropractors, nurses, or services in medical institutions. Adult PCEs were not listed in any use group within the zoning resolution, nor were they permitted through a special permit. In contrast, the definition of PCEs included other health-related establishments that were not considered to be adult PCEs, including gymnasiums, steam baths, and membership organizations offering classes or instructions in exercise or martial arts. These uses were permitted only by special permit from the BSA in C2, 4, 5, 6, and 8 commercial districts, as well as the M1, M2, and M3. So there was a whole big packet of information about the health and fitness text amendment. One of the slides was just kind of understanding. I think one of the board members had asked, well, how many are there in the city? And they did provide this graph of the number of granted applications since 1998. In Brooklyn, there's a total of 132. Manhattan is the top borough with 400, and you can see there are less and less in the outer boroughs. So Anne had a question because in part of the reading, there was a mention of yoga studios permitted as use group 6C. So yoga studios back in 2013, the Department of Buildings issued a buildings bulletin, which allows yoga studios in certain commercial districts, if they meet certain characteristics or conditions, that the instruction area doesn't exceed 1,500 square feet, that the occupancy does not exceed 74 persons, and there are no accessory showers. And the reason, if you read through this Department of Buildings memo, is that the yoga studios were more closely defined to dance studios, which are permitted and not part of the PCEs. So there was a change in 2013 to allow certain size yoga studios to operate within the use group 6C. So that was a question that Anne had last time that was clarified by city planning. So there is a Department of Building use classification for yoga studios currently. All right, into the health and fitness text amendment. So understanding why DCP proceeded with this health and fitness text amendment. When they presented to the committee, they said in this slide that the special permit that's required currently often takes more than 6 months to be granted, limiting opportunities for entrepreneurship and access to services that promote health. 2, that the uses are not allowed along many local retail streets that permit other service and retail businesses like restaurants, salons, and drugstores. 3, that the permit also prevents desired business from moving into local retail streets at a time when vacancy rates are high and expected to rise. They also cited these 2 reports, one in 2014 called Small Business First, and the other, One New York, the plan for a strong and just city that was released in 2015. And we kind of talked a little bit about in the working group, that they cite these reports, but I mean, this is 5 and 6 years ago. They had all of this time. If they were working on this, why didn't they share with community boards, why this sudden rush? And that was, we talked a little bit about that. So as we learned with the hotel text amendment, we started to look at the actual text section, the zoning resolution sections that are impacted by this health and fitness text amendment. So the first is zoning resolution section 12-10. So currently there's this very long definition for adult physical culture establishments, which I mentioned before, which does not permit in any zoning district a club or business designated which offers or advertises or is equipped and arranged as to provide part of its services, massage, body rubs, alcohol rubs, and there's a whole host of basically unlicensed massage type businesses in any zoning district. And that was replaced by a new definition, unlicensed physical treatment establishment, which is not as detailed as the adult physical culture establishment, but it also does prohibit any establishment that includes services such as or accessory uses to massage, body rubs, or similar treatment administered by a person that is not a healthcare professional licensed by the state of New York or under the supervision of such licensee. However, unlicensed physical treatment establishments shall not include barbershops, beauty parlors that offer massage to the scalp, face, neck, or shoulders only. Does anyone have a question? I thought I saw a hand. No, we're good?
Well, I'm just, I think we need to keep in our head the phrase "under the supervision." What does that mean, and how, what is supervision? How is it defined? What are the categories? It's a very vague statement, and I think it could be subject to abuse.
Okay, so I'm going to continue. Let's see. Physical, culture, or health establishments. So a physical, culture, or health establishment is any establishment or facility, including commercial and non-commercial clubs, which is equipped and arranged to provide instruction, services, or activities which improve or affect a person's physical condition by physical exercise or by massage. That was replaced with a health and fitness establishment as any establishment that is equipped and arranged to provide instruction, services, or activities which improve or affect a person's physically or by physical exercise or provide relaxation services. And then there's this whole long requirements for the health and fitness establishments and what it should include, but not limited to the following: establishments containing high intensity uses, including gyms where the predominant use of floor space involves the use of exercise equipment or weights, or gymnasiums and other indoor recreation establishments used for activities including basketball, martial arts for adults, handball, paddleball, racquetball, squash, tennis, rock climbing, or volleyball. Other establishments used for exercise including aerobics, exercise dance, Pilates, or yoga studios. Therapeutic or relaxation service establishments, including tanning salons, spas, boat houses, isolation floating
Bath
tents.
houses.
What is it?
You said boat houses.
Oh, I'm sorry, bath. I'm sorry.
I take a bath house at a boat house any day.
You know what? I have to switch my glasses because it's getting late. There it is. Bathhouse is much better. Isolation flotation tanks or meditation facilities. A pretty broad new definition. And then it goes on to add that establishments containing high intensity uses listed above are subject to the supplemental use regulations of these two sections, 32.13 and sections 123-33 as applicable. And then they give two grandfather clause for those that currently have a BSA license and how they continue after the expiration of such permit. So then they become as of right. So they hold on to the BSA permit until it expires, and then it becomes an as of right use. So I wrote a little note here, definition of health and fitness establishment. Why does the definition not include specific permitted uses within the definition, only general categories? And that's something that we picked up upon. And we asked the Department of City Planning, and they said they want to be vague in case there's a new use that comes up in the future that could be considered a health use or a new exercise or a new fad that can fit into the definition. So they were vague for those reasons. They wanted to be vague. So that was the answer to that question. So here is the current section of the zoning text on physical, culture, or health establishments. It's completely removed, 73-36. And this had specified the process to which an applicant who was seeking to open up an establishment that met that definition of physical culture establishment or health establishment in the districts, the C1, C2, C4, C5, C6, C8, M1, M2, and what was required of the special permit. I mean, I don't want to read this whole thing, and you know, I know that you've all read it. I don't want to take up that time, but there was a lot of different applicability phrases in here that required the applicant to go through a series of findings in order to get their BSA special permit, keeping in mind that every application made in Board 10 was approved and ultimately approved by the Board of Standards and Appeals. So it was a process that did require an extra layer of regulation, but it was really well intended, I think. And an important part was in the section 1 was that the board refers the application to the Department of Investigation for a background check on the owner, operator, and all principals having an interest in any application filed under a partnership or a corporate name, and shall have received a report which the board shall determine to be satisfactory. So that was replaced with this new section, section 32-413, health and fitness establishments in the C1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So this is brand new. Which says in the districts indicated, high intensity uses as listed in the definition of health and fitness establishments shall be subject to the following additional enclosure and environmental conditions. Such high intensity uses shall be located within completely enclosed buildings, and where such high intensity use is located in a building containing any residential, community facility or commercial use, an acoustical engineer shall verify to the Department of Buildings prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy that such use is designed according to the International Organization for Standardization, the ISO, or American National Standards Institute standards for noise control to meet the New York City Noise Code administered by the Department of Environmental Protection. And establishments containing those high intensity uses, I cut and paste here so we would recall. These were gymnasiums where the predominant use of floor space involves exercise equipment or weights, or gymnasiums and other indoor recreation establishments used for including basketball, martial arts for adults, handball, paddleball, squash, rock climbing, soccer, or volleyball. So they do add some additional acoustical engineering certifications for those types of uses. Within the manufacturing district, there's a new section. So this applies only to the M districts. In M1 districts paired with the residence district, high intensity uses as listed in the definition of health and fitness establishments shall be subject to additional enclosure and environmental conditions, very similar to what I had just mentioned. The as of right use group 6, which is currently retail or service establishments. Use group 6 are in the C1, 2, 4, 5, 6, and 8, which is primarily all of our commercial districts, I apologize, in Board 10. I mean, our commercial strips of 3rd Avenue, 5th Avenue, Fort Hamilton Parkway, 11th Avenue are all C1s and C2s. 86th Street is the C4 district. And the C8 district is that triangle near the car dealerships that we refer to. So now health and fitness establishments, open or closed, limited to 10,000 square feet of floor area, are allowed as of right. No more special permit. You want to open one, you can open it as of right in the C districts and the M districts. Community facility. Now, this was the section that Dean referred to earlier that we were concerned about. So in addition to being as of right, the standalone massage therapy establishments are now going to be permitted as of right within the community facility. So a community facility is actually a use that is permitted within most residential districts. So you'll see above here, 22-14. These are R1, R2, R3, R4, R5, R6, all of our residential districts. And even the contextual districts within that, they would be permitted. So in this section 22-14, I circled the two areas where physical culture or health establishments is being removed. And then there was a question about clubs, clubs except, because there was another provision that's being removed, the adult physical culture establishments or health establishments from this section. So we did ask that question because we thought it was unclear from reading the text, which PCE uses will be allowed in community facilities. And the answer from Department of City Planning is here in yellow. Health and fitness uses may be allowed in clubs so long as the club is not for profit and expressly indicates in their club charter that activities and facilities of the club are only for members. So there was an attached Department of Buildings bulletin from 1985 that she shared with us. I could share it on the screen if you want to see it later. But basically, if you want to do a health and fitness club, you can operate in a community facility, provided that you're non-for-profit. I really, I was a little confused by that. Still am, Dean. I'm looking at you because this is the section that we were concerned about. Is it
and
only?
I will tell you, Stephanie just shook her head like, what?
Yeah.
May I?
So you can have a health and fitness use as long as it's a non-for-profit.
Josephine, may I give an example?
Yes.
The Knights of Columbus on 86th and 13th. It's a residential zone. They have a gym in there, and it is for the youths of the members of the Knights of Columbus. So that is how I interpret this yellow.
So
section.
is that also like a YMCA?
Well, that's a really good point, and I would say the answer is yes.
Yes, but we've been on Zoom a long time that know that people need to learn to use these regulations and interpret them to their best interest. And how can this interpretation hurt our community? How does
Or impact, right? What is the impacts, right? So, for example, we had recently a community facility within a residential district for a medical use, and it was on a through lot. I think Anne, I spoke to you about it. Dean knows about this, and Doris. A residential district, I think it was the R5B, that had maybe a 35-foot height limit. All of a sudden, there's this 9-story building because of this loophole as you read through the text. But that was a community facility. So I think the concern was not only for freestanding buildings, though, Anne, like I'm just curious, what would it be for those that are smaller and that could be allowed within the residential building? Anne?
May I say something? In light of what Stephanie flagged, which is a really good point, maybe what we should advocate for is that this is okay as long as the health and fitness component is an accessory use to the non-for-profit. So like it's okay to have a Knights of Columbus with a little gym room for the members, but not a YMCA.
Okay.
Just a thought.
I like that. Okay. Okay, so I will continue that question. So there are proposed noise and vibration regulations for gyms. Higher impact gyms, such as those with significant weights or exercise equipment, will be required to submit documentation to the Department of Buildings, certifying that they are designed to sufficiently reduce noise and vibration on adjacent uses prior to being issued a certificate of occupancy. These additional noise and vibration requirements will be applicable in mixed-use buildings in all commercial and manufacturing districts. Low impact activities such as yoga, isometric exercise studios, and spas will not be required to demonstrate compliance with additional noise and vibration standards. These low impact activities will be subject to the New York City Noise Code. And what we talked about here in this note in blue is a review of our CB10 BSA special permit applications. Many times included stipulations regarding noise for HVAC equipment on the roof, which often accompanies some of the larger establishments that really wasn't mentioned in the current proposal. And some provisions about noise, relating to music, depending on the business model. So we've had, we keep bringing up this example of CrossFit that we had some issues with a number of years ago in the district on 3rd Avenue, had the loud music, had the heavy equipment, had a business model that, was open in the front that emanated into the street. And noise enforcement is really difficult. It's not as easy as the Department of City Planning representative made it to sound to be. Well, it's protected under the noise code. Enforcement does become difficult. So tightening up the provisions for, safeguarding the community from, concerns that we've had in the past, including it in our comments, was something that we talked about in the working group. So just a quick summary: physical culture establishments, gyms and licensed massage day spas. The proposed new action classified in the zoning resolution as of right in use group 6, that's residential, retail in the C1 and C2 districts. Licensed massage therapy will be classified with other ambulatory care uses permissible in most residential districts as of in use group 4A or use group 6B, except in the R1 and R2 districts. Limited to 10,000 square feet in floor area per establishment, as of right in all commercial and manufacturing districts. In greater than 10,000 square feet uses, use group 9, the PCEs will be treated similarly to banquet halls and car showrooms as of right in C2, C4, 5, 6, 8, and M districts. And then just to give you perspective, the circled area is the R2 section in the, in the Bay Ridge portion of Community District 10, which is bound roughly from Shore Road to 3rd Avenue and 79th Street to 85th Street and 76th Street from Colonial Road to Ridge Boulevard. The C1 district, I thought important to add in there, is 3rd Avenue from Marine to 86th, 3rd Avenue from 81st to Bay Ridge Avenue, 5th Avenue from Senator to 85th Street, and then 4th Avenue from 101st Street to Marine Avenue. The Dyker Heights portion of Community District 10, the C1 district, is primarily the main shopping corridors for Hamilton Parkway, 11th and 13th Avenue are all C1-3 districts, C1-2 or C1-3. So day spas versus unlicensed massage therapy. Maybe maybe it should be more correlated, because most of our day spas, our standalone day spas in Bay Ridge, have been unlicensed massage therapy establishments that we've had difficulty with over the years. And one of the slides that the Department of City Planning put forward was that the permit also prevents desired businesses from moving into local retail streets at a time when vacancy rates are high and expected to rise. And many, and we had some comments, just from our experience with our history here with the quality of life problems associated with some of these unlicensed day spas over the years, is that it may not have the desired impact on local retail corridors with the removal of the only regulatory siting requirement that currently exists. So that's it's a question. The special permit requirement is currently the only regulatory means that provides the ability for New York City government via the New York City Department of Buildings or the Mayor's Office of Special Enforcement to determine if an establishment is licensed for massage therapy in New York State. The Department of City Planning mentioned that there is a searchable database, the New York State Department of Education website. In fact, it is not easy to navigate, and I have emailed to inquire about a license of a pharmacy that was questioned, and I never received a response back from New York State as a city agency. So I thought that was important.
If Jessica says it's not an easy searchable database, it's not. It's a waste of time.
Right. So I just shared here, although it's uncomfortable for me to do. We had a real problem in 2013. We had over 20, standalone massage parlors, and we got a whole host of community members, both residents and business owners, complaining about. And we still have a handful that we deal with that are inspected by either the Department of Buildings or the Mayor's Office of Special Enforcement. We've had some real crime concerns in the past relating to these establishments, some serious crime, including a missing man that went into a day spa and didn't come out. We had a terrible fire on 11th Avenue. And other, concerns about human trafficking and really specific complaints. So the new definition of unlicensed physical treatment establishment, I'm not really sure, without the special permit, and we talked about this, without the special permit requirement for the, physical culture establishments, how will this be enforced? Is it a strong enough regulatory tool? Taking away the current BSA, feels like it has more teeth. We're not really sure why the definition included that clause, or under the supervision of such licensee. We're waiting to get an answer back. And New York State massage therapists, license verification and reporting. Again, I mentioned it earlier. It's you really can't search by zip code or borough. You have to know the licensee's name or license number. And just looking at
Interject here. In the past, we have asked that they post the license massage number in the front, in the storefront, and that has been denied.
Right. So just a glance, I looked at, back to 2013, there was a task force with the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office, the Mayor's Office of Special Enforcement, and Department of Buildings is the agency that determined if the license, if the premise had a license for massage. And there's a number of tools in the toolbox that were used by the Department of Buildings and the Mayor's Office of Special Enforcement to take a look at that. I haven't finished adding yet. I'm in the process of pulling the data, but I can tell you that at least $100,000 in violations have been issued for complaints relating to standalone massage therapy places, all of which have been unlicensed. All. There hasn't been one exception to that. Any location that DOB has gone out has found that there is not a licensed massage therapist on site, and a number of violations were issued. So just a case in point, this establishment, 7718 13th Avenue, had complaints in 2019, and an ECB violation was served. And if you read the comments, illegally converted the first floor parlor without BSA approval, work without a permit at the first floor. So it remains to be seen how, with the removal of the BSA special permit, how is this going to be enforced? What are the violations that could possibly be issued? Is it less? Does it have less teeth, more teeth? It's still very vague, because the violations that were issued were pretty substantial. And the number of day spas, because the violations went to the building owner, a lot of building owners just didn't want to rent to these places, because of all of the community concern about it. And I don't know how that changes now without a regulatory mechanism to confirm if an establishment is licensed. So this is just a number of slides just showing that, Department of Buildings always references the BSA approval for physical culture establishment. And just a summary here of our key concerns. 1, standalone unlicensed day spas, district-wide community complaints in CB10 since 2013, mostly in the C1 and C2 districts. The Health and Text Amendment removes the only regulatory mechanism to confirm at a local level massage therapists licensed in New York State. Right now, ZR 73-36 and ZR 12-10 are the only regulatory mechanisms in place for consumer protection and worker protection. PCE special permit requirement was effective in enforcement provided by DOB. The rush to get this through, a great amount of detail to review in a really short period of time. This new text amendment adds a standalone massage therapy ability within the community facility and the C1 district as of right without any effective local regulatory mechanism. It does not hold smaller facilities to the same noise regulation standards as those specified for larger facilities, and it does not create a proper classification that could assist small and large facilities. So that was it on the PowerPoint. Kind of overwhelming, right? Everyone's looking at me like, wow.
Rosemary, you're absolutely awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of material to digest and really understand, because we've had the specific issue, you know, with the day spas, and we have had a number of health establishments that we've worked with over the years, you know, through the special permit process, which was a public process. This really is a drastic change to that. And, you know, making sure that we put the right comments together, I think, is important. So, Doris, I turn it over to you. I don't know what you want to do next, if you want to go through the resolution or.
The last working group, one of the questions we had was that we now know that massage parlors can be allowed to exist in residential communities. But
I can't hear Doris.
I'm sure about yoga studios, martial arts studios, and other. And I read the DCP answer and I didn't understand it. So can I open a yoga studio in my basement?
Doris?
If you do, I'm coming.
So,
Doris, I
Yes.
think what Josephine clarified by seeking the information that it's only licensed massage therapy or health and fitness that occurs under the roof of a not-for-profit, right?
So if I'm a non-for-profit, can I operate in a residential building? You know, if I'm a non-profit, in other words, say I'm, you know, I am ABC nonprofit and I want to open a yoga meditation club for women ages 25 and up. And I get a 501c3, and I want to use the first floor in my 2-family home for this non-for-profit venture. Maybe I say I'm a non-for-profit. I'm not really non-for-profit. Maybe I am a non-profit. Can I open on the first floor, like a physician's office in a community facility, my meditation club? I'm a non-profit.
or on the second floor if you have a separate egress.
I think the answer is yes.
The answer, can I just put, I mean, a non-for-profit does not mean not for money, okay? There's a big difference between the two.
Yeah.
You can make as much money as you want. You can pay yourself as much money as you want. All you have to do is call yourself a not-for-profit and follow the rules of that. So the truth is, yes, you could open it up. You could open up a not-for-profit, call it whatever you want, and then accessory to that, you could do this. That's the way I see it.
I agree.
And I would venture to say, and Steve, you might have more information on this, you could open up a non-for-profit with multiple locations.
Under the supervision of a licensed therapist. Doris,
A not-for-profit.
and I can license myself out.
A not-for-profit has a principal office, but there's thousands of not-for-profits that have, you know, extensions everywhere. Okay, there's no reason in the world why you can't have a separate office. There might be a main office, but there's thousands of corporations. It's nothing but a corporation. Okay, it's just a not-for-profit corporation. I mean, but you take something like the Red Cross. How's that? Okay. Red Cross is a not-for-profit, doesn't need not for money. The guy that's operating that is making lots and lots of money. Okay. So I don't confuse the two. All right. Not-for-profit always has this feeling to it that somehow or another it's all charitable. That's not true. Okay. It's not for profit. It has a different thing. The corporation itself doesn't make any profit. It throws it back into the corporation, right? Whatever money they make, but they can pay themselves every dime that they so desire. Okay. There's nothing that stops that.
May I, Doris?
Sure.
So just to build on what I commented before, when I'm talking about an accessory use, I'm not talking about an accessory use to the not-for-profit entity, but an accessory use to the not-for-profit building. As an example, the Guild for Exceptional Children might have a gym room that members of the Guild who live in group homes might be able to come and use a room that is accessory to the Guild for Exceptional Children not-for-profit building. And similar with the Salvation Army, there could be a gym within the Salvation Army building, the one on 86th between Ridge and 3rd, for example, or the Knights of Columbus. But it's accessory use of the building, not accessory use of the not-for-profit agency.
I think that is unclear in what I have heard.
May I just say,
agree,
and I while I absolutely understand what you're saying, but there's no reason in the world why we can't use words to define that. Okay, that it could be charitable organizations, something of that nature. Okay, but as it stands right now, you could, I mean, the NRA is a not-for-profit, you know what I mean? I'm being very serious. I mean, it doesn't come across that way.
I agree that what they proposed, the wording of what they proposed is inadequate. I agree.
Well, I think that's a very appropriate phrase, Anne. Their wording is inadequate.
Do you want me to pull?
It's inadequate to prevent what we don't want. That's what it comes down to.
It's inadequate to protect our community.
Do you want me to pull up the attachment that city planning sent me about the interpretation of clubs in use group 4 community facilities to take a look at that?
I read it and it's as clear as mud.
Okay.
Yes. If anyone wants, do we want to see it or are we okay?
Let's see. We'll just pull it up really, really quick. Hold on a second, I'm sorry. Technical difficulties.
Nice Christmas scene.
Is it a Christmas thing? Oh, it is snowy. It is. It is. I'm sorry. Okay. Bear with me 1 second. Here it is. Can you all see it? Clubs which are use group 4 under section 22-11, the zoning resolution, are to be non-profit or philanthropic organization with no service of any kind carried on as a business. They must be a community facility type which comply favorably to the 3 conditions stated in section 2214 of the zoning resolution. The club's charter must indicate the use of the activities and facilities of the club to be for members only and not for the general public. Admission to the facility and participation in its activities cannot be available to the general public merely upon application. A bona fide screening and membership process must be followed that may include the payment of initial fee to cover basic costs of the capital improvement. All clubs, philanthropic or nonprofit institutions in use group 3 and use group 4 must have tax exempt certification from the New York City Tax Department for real property, Department of Finance for general corporation tax, blah, blah, blah. When the bulk or parking regulations are being used in the zoning calculation based on the community facility use, either the premise must be owned and occupied by that of the community facility, or a lease must show that the community facility will be a tenant for that portion of the building prior to approval. Did that help? Didn't help me that much.
No.
I'm still,
I would just say the phrasing around the other use groups is very vague and subject to interpretation that could be detrimental to our community. Are you all there?
yes. We have a comment in the chat from a resident, from Mr. Let's see, I know it's Joanne Zalone, a CB10 resident and practicing architect. Not sure how the attorneys are letting this happen. They have much work to lose. The unlicensed massage portion is the most concerning. When proposed in a residential zone, should be further limited in the area, say 1,500 square feet, not the same as 10,000 square feet. I agree.
I think 1,500 is too much.
Yeah.
Me too. Well, I would say that the working group met and many of their questions that were raised have been addressed now. And when we addressed this first, it was almost usually, I would say it was like everybody was opposed to it. That there might be little areas where there's some leeway, but it's not, I would say it's not worth taking the chance. And one of our concerns was at the last full board meeting, full committee meeting, it was requested that we do a very detailed objection with a lot of whereases, there, this, and Josie did that, and it's excellent. But there were
Absolutely.
there were concerns that this would overwhelm people. And I looked at my notes after our last full committee meeting, and I have some very concise notes to make this very simple. And I think we can prepare a cover letter, simplify it, and then include all of the whereases that we have discussed. And a few of you were not in that on that meeting, so you don't know the whereases, but there are a lot of them. And basically the whereases say this is not good.
So I put up the draft, the really rough draft resolution, which basically explains what the action is. When the process began, it's very formal, and it's, just background where the PC special permit was enacted as an approach to curbing commercial sex and illicit activity connected with business masquerading as health clubs. And whereas the Department of City Planning explained the proposed action is designed to remove regulatory burdens associated with the BSA special permit requirement in place for gym, spas, and licensed massage therapy. And then it goes on to say, whereas the proposed action removes, amends, or modifies, a whole bunch of sections in the text. It speaks about the changes in the text, which sections were added, which were deleted. Whereas the number of PCE applications reviewed for larger gyms and granted in Community District 10 from 98 with 7 businesses. We talked about, I think, removing that. Maybe removing this, not mentioning, the total numbers that was not really needed. Whereas the proposed action creates a new section 72, I'm sorry, ZR 32-413s within the C districts, requiring added standards for noise and vibration and additional enclosure and environmental condition filings within the New York City Department of Buildings prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, such that it meets the New York City noise code. It is long. But each of these whereas clauses speak about the bulleted changes in the text amendment. Whereas the proposed action creates a new as of right allowance in the community facilities within residential districts and use group 4A, considered ambulatory diagnostic or treatment healthcare facilities or healthcare offices in use group 6B, or long-term care facilities in use group 3A allowed in residential districts. And whereas the proposed action does not provide an environmental impact analysis relating to the expanded as of right designation of health and fitness establishments within community facilities that are within residential and commercial overlay within those residential districts. And whereas the proposed action does not replace the regulatory mechanism previously provided by the New York City Department of Buildings to confirm licensure by the New York State Department of Education for massage therapy in retail storefront districts. And whereas the proposed action does not address citywide quality of life and serious crime issues relating to unlicensed standalone day spas, referred to as illicit day spas. And whereas since 2013 to date, Community Board 10 has collaborated with various agencies, including the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office, community-based organizations, aiding victims of human trafficking, the Mayor's Office of Special Enforcement, Buildings Department, Police Department, to address quality of life and crime issues associated with standalone day spas. And whereas we're going to include the total number of fines that have been issued in the district. The State Department of Education does not provide an easily searchable online database. All the points that we just raised, DEP has limited capacity of inspecting and enforcing, that the Zoning and Land Use Committee recognized that the proposed actions strive to achieve a positive goal of removing the regulatory burden that exists for gyms, yoga studios, martial arts studios, and other similar exercise businesses. And whereas the Zoning and Land Use Committee asserts that the review process has been rushed, especially given the broadness and complexity of the proposed action. I mean, maybe we could even just consolidate it to just start, to really talk about that. The public deserving more time to understand and evaluate this text amendment and propose provisions to protect our community. And whereas the applicability of the proposed action within the Special Bay Ridge District, the contextual districts within Community District 10, and across the City of New York was not thoroughly studied, therefore be it resolved that the members of Community Board 10 recommend a no vote to the proposed action. And we wrote as written because of its failings in, and we listed, 6 bullet points. Reviewing environmental and economic impacts of allowing PCEs of any kind to operate as of right within residential districts, adding a broad range of formally defined commercial uses to operate within the community facility or community facility buildings, addressing the removal of the only regulatory mechanism to confirm licensure of massage therapists, and not requiring noise mitigation to larger facilities with HVAC roof equipment, not holding the smaller facilities to the same noise regulation standards as those specified for larger facilities, and for failing in creating a proper classification that could assist small and large facilities. So, I mean, I don't know if this says it all, if it's too confusing. Should we just say why we don't want this, or, have issues with a lot of it?
I think in the working committee group, what the discussion was, those whereases are overwhelming. But I think, and it was requested with that we do a summary page, and I think I can do a summary, and we could probably tonight do a simple resolution, and but I would do a summary that would make it palatable to the full board, that they don't go, oh my God, you just said 20 whereas, like, that we make it understandable, that it's my job to make it understandable to the full board, and therefore everybody else.
I just have, the problem I have with that, okay? I mean, I think we have to do what we did. And the reason for it is because, well, the board is going to vote on it, and I have little doubt that the board will vote in favor of that resolution after we explain it to them in detail, all right? But I want the newspapers to see everything. And when that resolution, okay, when that resolution goes out, if we bring it down to just a few sentences, it will not have the impact of saying, this really stinks, okay? And I mean, because I believe that it is worthwhile when the newspapers get a hold of it, of recognizing that this is something that, will apply, all citywide. And people should understand what they're doing here. This is not just our community. Our community is what we're worried about. But it's something that if everybody gets behind it and says, no, that's what we're looking for.
No, I agree completely. I'm just saying, we need a little bit of a summary and then go through the details and open it up for questions to go through the details.
Dean, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I agree with Steve in terms of this document. It's excellent in terms of giving it to technical people. However, if we're looking to build up community support and have them understand how bad this is, even the newspapers, people are not going to grasp it. I agree with Doris. We should put a cover letter on top of this that simplifies it for everybody, and then let city planning read the whereas and whereas and whereas and whereas. But we need something very simple that people could bite into and understand, including the newspapers. They're not going to grasp it from what we have. We need something very simple covering what we have.
They are not mutually exclusive.
No, I said covering what we have.
So do you think that a motion should, for the board, say that we want to adopt a resolution that explains, our.
We want to adopt a resolution to reject this text amendment. That's pretty much what we've said from the beginning. And anything else is how we approach it to the full board and the rest of the community.
Right, but the document says that we reject it.
Yes.
I do agree that we start out with say that we believe basically the front page should say this is a turkey and we resolve not to have it. Okay, that's it.
Because it's not Thanksgiving.
Maybe on that cover page we just list specifically why we don't like it. Very simple language. You're going into the residential district. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there that we could list very simply also.
I think too that, within this text amendment, when just in speaking of the way it was presented to us by the Department of City Planning as an effort to help promote, to help get rid of a lot of the red tape for certain businesses. Post-pandemic, there were all of these businesses, which is not really quantified truly, I think, in any good way, because frankly, after the pandemic, a lot of exercise classes went remote, and a lot of people like the remote doing exercises in their homes. So I don't think that they really quantified, the long-term, implications of this, but there's just so much detail here. But their message was, hey, we're trying to help business prosper, these health, and they really focused on these, boutique type of uses that I think don't reflect all that we have experienced in our district. So there's a lot more in the text that we're concerned about. I guess my concern is that the average person in the public will say, they're trying to help business, and the community board is just, they want to keep this red tape, not really understanding the underlying issues. And I just want to make sure that we're clear about why we're concerned, especially about, some need for some regulation. within at least a very, the strongest of standalone massage parlors, massage therapy places.
Yeah, this is intended to
Steve,
help the real
Dean, wait a
estate
minute, Stephanie had a
industry
question.
by making it easier to rent stores. It's really aimed at the real estate industry, just to make it easier to rent stores. This is what, I mean, I don't know. That's what I think anyway.
Good point.
It wasn't a question. I just thought feedback, because I was not part of the first working group, and I still consider myself somewhat new at Zaluk, even though this is probably my 4th year. But just I think bottom line up front is really good. I don't think anyone's input has been mutually exclusive. I think that even for me, digesting it, bottom line up front with the most egregious issues that concern residents. Why is this an issue for the residents of our community board? And then if that's in the cover letter, or I don't know if the way you've written the whereases, I'm not familiar with that procedure. I don't know if you're allowed to, if you can put the resolution first and then the whereases as an explanation, but that condensed resolution piece, particularly with the emphasis on the massage therapy in the residential areas, that really jumps out at me. And again, that's coming from someone who is less seasoned than the rest of the committee.
I think that's a very interesting point. And Steve, I would ask your input on that.
I think it's very good. What Stephanie's saying is really this. It's an old saw, but when you're trying to convince people, you tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them.
Okay. Okay.
And this is something that I think would really work. I like the idea, just to be very clear, I like the idea of a cover letter that explains the real core of what we're at, then putting this in there. Okay. In other words, the resolution. I think the resolution, I think what you do is tell them about how bad it is. The whereases are then added, telling them in detail how bad it is for those people who are interested. And then you're at the end saying to them, this is what we're recommending. Okay. And why, I like the idea of going with something at the beginning that says, you know what, people, what this is going to do is put prostitution on your doorstep. All right, because that's the kind of thing. We're not saying it, even to each other, but that's basically that. You hit me with that one, and I say that's what this is going to do. Then put it down the whereas. I think you'll get the people behind you, because it has that potential, that kind of a thing, that we have. I see it as community destructive. All right, something, but not just here. I mean, throughout the entire city. I like the idea of the letter.
May I?
Yes.
The part that I object to most is the idea that a 10,000 square foot store is a small business, is a small gym that's not going to make noise, that is held to a lower noise standard, et cetera. I think, and the community member that voiced her opinion that you spoke, Josephine, I think was kind of on the same page, that I would say 1,500, 2,500 square feet. That's a small space that perhaps could be considered as, to be exempt from special permits if the instructional space is of so many square feet, and if the visibility through the window into the store is 3/4 of the way in the floor plan, with less than 25% dedicated to offices, then I think we create a space for the yoga studios and other really legitimately small businesses to avoid the special permit. But I still think they should be subject to the same noise requirements.
Excellent, good point, Anne.
So Doris, I mean, we do have someone from the public who's an architect. Did you want to open it up to questions from the public?
Sure. Nice.
Giuseppe, I don't know if you want to speak. I think that's your.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Hey guys. Hi, Ann. No, I'm with you guys on everything you said. And she's got a good point. 10,000 square feet is not, if they're trying to help small businesses, 10,000 square feet is going way above and beyond helping small businesses. Most retail shops on, in 3rd Avenue, 4th Avenue, 13th Avenue, typical building, 1,700 square feet, 2,000 square feet.
Right.
So, it doesn't make sense. Or even, let's forget our neighborhood. This is citywide. Most commercial districts throughout the city are typical 20-foot by 100 lots with, 1,700 to 2,000 square foot ground floors. So, I agree that they're trying to help small businesses, but I think that the definition is too broad. The 10,000 square feet is, above and beyond, especially for residential. I don't think it should be allowed in residential at all, community facility or not. If you do as an accessory use, like Ann pointed out, that makes sense. But still limit the area so that you don't have a gray line where a business can finagle one way or the other. So Knights of Columbus, perfect example. That's not their primary function, and it's an accessory use. YMCA, not a good example, or the example against this whole situation, because the whole business is a gym, right? So it can't be the primary use, has to be an accessory use. I mean, maybe even go so far as to say it can't exceed 50% of the area of the business if you're going to call it an accessory use. But all good points, guys. And I appreciate the work you guys put in.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you.
I try when I can.
Thank you.
Good points.
So members. I mean, there's
Anyone willing to make a motion?
I would move that someone, I'm not quite sure who, not me, would write a cover letter creating or reflecting the sense of what we just discussed, and then that we adopt as the resolution the whereases and resolution and resolved document that Josephine so well produced.
Would it be possible to put a paragraph in there somewhere stating that we support the concept of it, but that the document needs more input?
No, we don't support the concept of it.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
I'll second this.
And
Okay,
Well,
with that, I resolve in the next 2 days to put together a cover letter, hopefully tomorrow, to go out for a review. And basically this motion is subject to the cover letter. Or is it subject to?
Right.
No, we're saying that you can write the cover letter reflecting the sense. I mean, who would write the letter? Like I'm saying, is up to us. But
Steve,
I do
I love
believe the letter is important.
I agree. It's okay.
I just want to understand now, so what we're basically saying is that we're not supportive, and we should list all of the reasons, kind of in lay terms of what our objections are. And I think there is a way to say that some of the intent here to assist businesses, is admirable, but that there is so much more here that needs to be addressed, you know, we talked about an awful lot tonight, you know, to put in there. So I think there has to be a lot of bullet points, you know, specific to our concerns, you know, maybe 10, you know, maybe 5, maybe 10.
I think if I can just say, Joe, I agree with what you're saying, but I think that the letter should be far more general, that the sense of the what do they call it? The change,
The amendment.
The sense of the amendment is to create the opportunity for nefarious activity within not only our business community, but within our residential community, which would have great effect on the entire community. I mean, people can only absorb so much. And I don't think that we want to just kind of make smaller bullet points of the existing bullet points. I think that at least my sense of this whole thing is like, come on, guys, look at what you're doing. All right, I like the idea about the 2,500 square feet, but oddly enough, I think 2,500 square feet in a residential community could create havoc. So I don't think it should be there at all.
No.
So, so I think that we have to get across that this thing is destructive and highly destructive in my opinion. The potential is there for that kind of destruction.
I hate to say it, but I think it might be possible that the small working group needs a finale session.
Yeah.
Oh,
Do you know what? I always a working group. Why don't we? I mean, is there a way that we could maybe work on this at some point tomorrow for a little bit? Anyone who's around?
around tomorrow.
And you have any time tomorrow?
I'm going to have 3 hours in the car tomorrow, and I'd be happy to spend those 3 hours with you.
Oh, thank you. All right, we'll work on that.
Josephine,
I'm working on an order to show cause.
I know you are.
Josephine, I'll be willing to come to the office tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, very good. Wait. Let me look Josephine. Look at her calendar for tomorrow.
So can you connect me by phone?
So now wait a minute. Do we have a motion?
Yes, we have a motion.
Okay.
The motion is to write a cover letter reflecting the sense of
Our opposition.
our position with a supplemental whereas resolved document that outlines our objections and concerns to the proposed health and fitness text amendment. As
already written by you.
As written.
Except that I think that the end of your document, Josephine, with the
resolve should be at the beginning.
Resolves needs to be brought in alignment with that cover letter.
Okay.
And that's reflective of Stephanie's comments.
Sorry?
That's reflective of Stephanie's comments.
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
And just we should relook at those.
Okay. All right, so I guess we have to vote on that. Let's see if I could do this. How's that? Do you all see it?
Yeah.
Giuseppe, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all, guys. This was a tough one.
Thank you all. You've been amazing. And I would just like to add a side note. In our last working group, you mentioned the One New York City 2050. And I know someone who was invited to be on an advisory panel for that group. And I believe they met once. I will follow up on that and let you know for sure, but I didn't have a chance to follow up since our last meeting, but I will check.
Well, I think there were many years in between those two published reports that if this was a goal of the Department of City Planning, there could have been quite a few more conversations with, the communities about this instead of this mad rush at the end of May.
Yeah, but it was interesting because I remember the person I know, I was very very impressed to be invited, and there was one meeting.
Well, okay.
So, but they were admirable goals, but they were not followed through on it. And guys, I really have to thank you. There have been all of these text amendments. I went through several on my own, and I was totally overwhelmed. And to have, especially on this one and the next one, your input was totally a salvation at time. You're a good working group, the entire committee at time. Thank you.
And you're a good chairperson.
Our heads are getting big now.
Yes, there you go.
That's okay. You'll go home and somebody will pop it for you at time.
Thank you all.
Thank you all. Thank you all at time.
Good night, everybody. Good seeing
Take
everybody.
care. Yes, take care.
Good night.
Thank you.